Welcome back to The Trade. I'm Gina Beck.
This is Drew Williams.
Thank you for listening. Thank you for commenting, liking, and subscribing. I really appreciate y'all, and I really love the feedback, and I like seeing the Apple Podcast reviews. You guys are awesome. Thank you, guys.
Thank you guys again for the feedback. I love seeing the banana cats. It blows my mind seeing it every episode we post. Thank you again. How are you, G?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. I'm actually really, really good.
Good. When everybody hears this, I'll be back from Miami, right?
Yep.
Because this will be the 24th one. I won't be able to tell you guys all the fun stuff I did until the next one. So make sure you listen to the next one if you guys want to know how that trip went.
I'm sure it's going to have all kinds of crazy stories. She's with Jenna. It's going to be nuts. It's going to be fun.
It'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah. Do you want to get into this one?
Yeah, go for it.
All right. So I'm sure everyone is pretty much at least heard or watched some parts or all of it of the, it was called Inside the Mind of a Killer, The Life of Aaron Hernandez. Is that what it was? I honestly didn't know shit about him. I didn't know that he was that big of like a superstar. I think I'm gonna let G explain the crime a little bit more. It's I honestly kind of find the doc kind of boring.
It was a little boring, but because I think it was to me just because it was repetitive. I didn't focus on like the stuff I wanted to hear. But Aaron Hernandez, he was a convicted murderer and American football tight end for the New England Patriots. His career came to an abrupt end in 2013 after his arrest and conviction of the murder of Odin Lloyd. So let's talk about that for a second. That's such a tragic story. I mean, I couldn't imagine hearing that my fellow teammate had been murdered by another teammate, you know?
Well, they were Odin Lloyd was the one that was dating the other sister, correct? It was the Jenkins sisters they were dating. So
yeah.
So Hernandez was already a professional athlete at that time, and
Yeah.
Odin was a semi-pro. And the sad thing is, the semi-pro guys actually pay to play. Like it's all for heart.
Mm-hmm.
It's all for heart. And the thing that got me the most was his buddy, all his interviews. The guy with the long hair that was a semi-pro. I mean, you could see him tear up talking about, and he was talking about how Odin was basically trying to get away from that actual whole street life type thing, and he ended up getting killed by a guy pretending to be part of it.
Right, and then I remember, excuse me, how they were saying that Hernandez was, he had lied about his upbringing, and he actually grew up in a really great home and good neighborhood, right?
Yeah, I believe it's at least the high school is Bristol High School. I think the town's name is Bristol. It's in Connecticut. It's like a very like upper middle class, picturesque type neighborhood. He was, the college or the high school athlete type thing.
Right. So he didn't have, a hard life besides the things that he was probably dealing with inside and stuff, but his family life and surroundings in the neighborhood, it was not as bad as how Odin grew up.
Well, I mean, people have similar situations, worse and better than his, and don't end up doing the crimes that he does. And those
exactly.
I felt like the documentary the whole time, instead of placing most of the blame on Aaron Hernandez, who did everything, they were trying to hyper focus on his sexuality, which I was like, okay, I get it. It's crazy that he was gay, but it hyper focused on that. And then there was a weird focus on weed. Did you notice that? There was just like all these weird, like, what does that even have to do with it? They had a commonality.
Those were the two things that was really repetitive. Yeah.
Yeah, it was strange, but I did really actually enjoy all the interviews with all the victims' friends and family. Like, it's sad to say enjoy, but those were the most intriguing parts to me of the entire thing. I think it probably could have been cut in half. There's a lot of stuff they could have cut out.
It came in episodes, didn't it?
Yeah, it was a 3-part. I feel like the third part, like there was parts of it that were good, but most of it could have just been left out.
Yeah. And he was recognized as an All-American at the University of Florida, and Hernandez was drafted by the Patriots in the fourth round of the 2010 NFL Draft alongside teammate Rob Gronkowski. He formed one of the league's most dominant tight end duos, becoming the first pair of tight ends to score at least 5 touchdowns each in consecutive seasons for the same team. He made one Super Bowl appearance also. I'm not much of a football fan, but I do enjoy like the Super Bowl. I do watch it if I'm around people that are watching it, but I'm not a diehard fan, so you know, don't come after me.
They'll be more mad at me. I don't watch it at all. I don't want. I like the fact that it brings people together. It's something with age that I've realized it's
Mhm.
cool. It brings family and friends together, but I don't care about it.
Right, right. Well, during the 2013 offseason, Hernandez was arrested and charged for the murder of Odin, a semi-professional player who was dating the sister of Hernandez's fiance. Following his arrest, Hernandez was immediately released by the Patriots. He was found guilty of the first-degree murder in 2015 and sentenced to serve life in prison without the possibility of parole, and which is what should happen if you murder someone. And while on the trial for Lloyd's murder, he was also indicted for the 2012 double homicide of Daniel De Abreu and Safiro Furtado, but he was acquitted after a 2017 trial. Days after being. Go
And
ahead.
that was the one that got him like looped into this weird legal law in Massachusetts where they were like able to claim abatement because Hernandez killed himself shortly after that, right? During the second trial. And because of that,
Right.
some weird, it's like called a common law. It's like an old school law that they took it off of it kind of because of this case, but because he was in appeal, he was able to basically get the charge dropped, and his hope was that they could use it to, I don't know, sue the NFL, or I don't know what his whole mind behind that was. But it was really strange that he was able to get one conviction dropped by committing suicide. But it did get reinstated later on.
Yeah, that's crazy. It's a crazy situation. Because, like you said, days after being acquitted of the double homicide, Hernandez was found dead in his cell. I mean, nobody I don't nobody would expect Hernandez to do that, I think, and I think in the documentary people were surprised as well, but they thought that Hernandez had things and anger going on inside from being
Well,
gay.
that was the other thing too. I mean, the sexuality thing. That the big thing I thought they did do a great job of was bringing a focus to CTE.
Mhm.
The how do you say that? Chronic traumatic encephalopathy. I think that's how you say it.
Yeah.
And then they donated his brain after all that, and
Yeah.
they were able to find that he had crazy advanced stages of it, which I'm not telling people to not to take away youth sports or anything like that. I just found it
Mhm.
very interesting that he did have like very advanced case of this, and I that was I guess also one of the things that bugged me. They tried to use that as a cop out. That's why he did these things, but it could have been maybe his decisions could have affected those.
Yeah, it's deep. And he's not here anymore, so it's like it's a lot of assumptions, I feel like. A
Well,
lot of people assuming.
well, it's the same thing
So,
with the because they did a brain scan on Robin Williams' brain after
right.
he died, and they
Mm.
found out the type of disease he had is related to Parkinson's, and it's some type of protein that grows on the brain, and they're only able to identify it after the person dies. In like every case, everyone commits suicide. Yeah,
Mm.
there's a Joe Rogan had Bobcat Goldthwait. It was Robin Williams' best friend on. He talks about it, about all that. And it's just
That's deep.
interesting. It's interesting because we're learning more about the brain. And I don't know. I'm not saying it's an excuse for things, but it is interesting how we're finding out reasons behind some behaviors.
Mm. Yeah, it's better than not knowing. And I think it's, if anything, it's just really good information because who would have thought that that was possible to find something after and it not even be able to find it until after someone was dead? Like I never knew that. I just learned something new today. you know?
And apparently, there's quite a few diseases they really can't detect till after death, and that's those ones I
That's
guess that.
crazy.
Yeah, yeah.
Scary kind of. But Aaron Hernandez's death, it was ruled a suicide by hanging. His conviction for Lloyd's murder was initially vacated under the doctrine of abatement, what you said, because Hernandez died during his appeal. So, what do you think if that didn't happen? Like, what do you think what should have happened? Do you think that it should have gotten appealed or no?
Well, I don't think that they should have ever put Odin's family through that whole process of the killer getting the charges dropped when everybody knows he did it. But at the same
Right,
time, this is going to sound really brutal, but he's not milking off the taxpayers anymore. He kind of did everyone a little bit. It's like he took the trash out himself. I mean, it
right.
sounds really horrible, but he was a terrible human. I mean, he might have been a wonderful father. There's interviews with children of serial killers that talk about their father being wonderful, but he was a pretty shitty
Right.
human. Like I don't know.
People,
I don't know. What about you?
oh man, I don't know. I think hearing everything, I just think he deserved what he got, which was prison. And what he did to himself, I don't think anybody should do. So I don't know. It's a sticky situation. I just don't think that that should have happened. But him getting an appeal for committing suicide, no, because he still did it.
I wonder. I don't remember if they talked about it or not, but did they discuss any theories on how he got that idea? I don't remember that at all. Did like the
What
lawyer
idea?
the using abatement? Because I know they brought up about like people talked about him discussing like the child and the mother being able to sue the NFL for the CT and covering up his actions and things like that. He, I don't know. The whole thing confuses me sometimes. It just
Well, here, let's listen to this. People were describing Hernandez as being strangely content while in jail, an attitude that confounded his fiancee, Shania Jenkins. He told his mother that I've been the most relaxed and less stressed in jail than I have out of jail. He was, however, punished on multiple occasions for breaking prison rules, including screaming and banging on his cell door. Over the course of his 4 years behind bars, he increasingly turned to the Bible and became more religious. Prison officials seemed to turn a blind eye to Hernandez's drug use and neglected to safeguard their famous inmate. Hernandez could speak to Jenkins on the phone and often twice a day, but she was facing perjury charges related to his arrest. He only saw his daughter when Jenkins' mother brought her to visit. While in prison, he was reconciled with his own mother, from whom he had been estranged for many years. So, hearing this, that he was just content with being in jail and didn't really. I think he just kind of put on a facade. I think that's what a lot of people do. Is that the word? Facade?
yeah. Well, I mean, you look. He put on a facade his whole life. I mean, even with his
Yeah,
sexuality. So
yeah. And I think especially in jail. And I remember in the documentary when he was talking to his mom and he was being very
he's mean to his mom, like Aaron Carter's mean.
not only mean to his mom, but it sounded like he was being homophobic. Like, you know?
Well, he did that too when he was talking to his wife when they were talking about the transgenders in jail because he was calling them things which they do call them stuff
Yeah.
like that. But
And he kind of sounded angry when he would talk about those things. And so hearing that he was content and just like blah, 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 just like people hold a lot back.
there's something else I wanted to bring up that I think that I always find it weird that always got overshadowed was that the man he murdered, Odin, was dating his wife's sister,
Hmm.
and it's that whole situation, that whole family is crazy and messed up. But I mean, with everything presented, it shows you the psychology, I guess, of maybe trying to keep a family together when you have a child with someone. But I mean, just to stand next to him after having all that presented to you, to betray, because like made it sound like in their testimony, like one of them, like they weren't friends, but you can see from the pictures they were super close.
It's deep, and you just don't really know things unless you were to ask him, I feel like.
I mean, there's no way of that ever happening. It's one of those things. I mean, that's why there'll probably be more documentaries on it. I mean, people will talk about it forever. It's crazier than the OJ case, which is really strange because the OJ case is fucking nuts. But
Well, people were pointing out that he had committed his crimes and then just went and played a football game and acted like nothing had happened. Like, that is.
Well, yeah, you
Just
can even see the video of when he goes before he goes. It's like minutes before he goes and picks up Odin to kill him. He's like in the gas station, like singing and dancing. He goes and gets bubble gum.
mm. And then when he was hugging the guys after.
Oh yeah, well he was saying that he was terrified of him, and they showed that security footage of them passing his daughter around, which is really sad because it, like, you see the monster actually be a glimpse of human with him when he's with his daughter, and
Right.
it just
Yeah.
it's sad. It is sad. I get why there's a documentary on it. I just found the documentary itself a little bit boring, but
Yeah.
it is a crazy sad story.
We wanted to touch on this Aaron Hernandez topic because we both watched the documentary and we're just very, I don't know, very interested in the story and what had happened. And if anybody in the comments has any articles or any clips or anything that you can show us that we haven't seen or that wasn't in the documentary, if you want to message us and tell us your story, go ahead and do so. We love y'all. Thank you for listening. Thank you for commenting, liking, and subscribing. We'll catch you next time. Banana Cats.